Around this time of year, I'm talking a lot with people about how to set boundaries with challenging family members and about what it looks like to have a relationship with family that's not always respectful of the boundaries you have in place. If this is you, this video is for you. I'm Emma Coble. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I work with women from a feminist perspective as well as with couples. I work with trauma specifically. Maintaining a relationship with a family, even when they don't always respect your boundaries, might be a choice you have made and thought deeply about. Maybe you have kind of weighed things out and decided that it is worth it to you to maintain connection with your family, and but you still are in this situation where it's really hard when you're around them because you feel triggered, you feel unseen, you feel like they're not respecting the limits that you're putting into place. And this is a really painful experience. And I want to, first of all, just validate it and say how normal it is. And also say that family is often really the hardest place to enforce and set some of the boundaries you've probably worked really hard to implement in your life. So if you're having this struggle, it doesn't mean you are doing something wrong or that you necessarily need to be making a different choice, although that's something you can always think about if you continually feel diminished around your family. It's a challenging situation, and tools like therapy and EMDR can be really helpful in this and helping you understand where your needs are and how to better take care of yourself. So you might be experiencing things like kind of like knowing what you need, but freezing when you say it, or feeling guilty anytime you set a limit, or saying the boundary and saying the limit, but then not enforcing it. Like, so saying like, I'm no longer going to be able to have this conversation unless we change the subject, but then finding it really hard to actually like walk away from the conversation or leave the gathering where you are. And then it can also be tough because oftentimes families will interpret boundaries as rejection, and dealing with the blowback of this can be really, really painful. And it can feel really hard to hurt someone, especially when we've been in a role of maybe being a parentified kid and taking care of our families. So, how can you prepare yourself for this? So, one thing I want to just say is like, just if you have a relationship with your sort of inner world, really take care of the vulnerable parts of you before you go into a challenging situation. So I will sometimes imagine like taking my inner child, putting her to bed, putting her in a safe place, tucking her in, letting her know like the adult me has this situation and she's safe and I'm going to be back to take care of her, but like she can just stay in there and stay cozy, and adult Emma has the situation. So validate this inner part's feelings of like, I know this is scary, I've got us, I'm gonna take care of us. Let that inner kid know that she's safe and that you're gonna come back to her and she's safe with you. And then imagining also like remembering your why, like remembering sort of why you are choosing to continue to engage with your family. Like what are the values that make this important to you to maintain these relationships, and what are the good things you get from these relationships. And then reminding yourself as well that this is a choice that you are making and that you are empowered in this, and that you can always choose to take a step back or create space or do whatever you need to take care of yourself. That you are not forced to do anything, and you have agency in this. Another thing is to kind of lower your expectations. So to go into these events with realistic expectations, knowing that if they're exceeded, great. If things go better than you expect, great. But really remembering that, yes, things this might be hard. You might be in situations where you feel like your boundaries aren't being respected, or maybe a family member is very distracted or short or isn't listening to you or is snappy. And like knowing that before you go in and kind of preparing yourself a little bit, not to a point where you are like feeling on edge or reactive, but just knowing like this is probably what we're going into, and here are my options when and if that happens. Like thinking about doing things like taking a few minutes and stepping outside, or going for a walk, or going just to the bathroom to breathe for a minute. Maybe texting one of your friends or a partner and just sharing like how much this is tough, and even being able to kind of joke or laugh about it if that helps. Maybe setting a time limit for the visit, so saying like I can come for an hour, whatever. Practice some grounding techniques, like even if you're in a challenging situation, coming back to your breath, coming back to naming like 5 orange things you see, or like something to bring you back into your body and remind you that here in the present moment, this is challenging, but you're safe. So how can I communicate boundaries with family? So one technique I love for this is nonviolent communication, which there's a great book called Nonviolent Communication about how to do this. But the first thing is to just name like what is happening in a way that it's not non-emotional and not something anyone would argue with. So like when you just, said that I had gained weight, for example, and then say the feeling, I felt hurt, or I felt alone, or I felt sad, because I really have a need. So you want to do observation, feeling, and then need. I have a need to be respected and valued by you. And my request is that you no longer make comments to me about, or to anyone about my body, for example. So we want this to be direct. We want it to be speaking from a place of vulnerability and emotion rather than accusatory, but sharing the truth of how this made you feel and making a request for the future. So if family continues to violate boundaries, first thing is to pause. Remember, you can always take a breath. You don't need to react in the moment, and reconnect with that like adult self that is inside of you. And remember that you, again, are always able to take space, and in that moment, you can even choose to take space without needing to decide anything about the longer term relationship. Reaffirm that boundary that you've set without apologizing or over explaining, like saying something like, I don't want to have this conversation. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to take a break. Let's pick this. I'm leaving. We can pick this up another time. And then remembering, and that can be also like the enforcing of the boundary. So sometimes like leaving a situation, sometimes like choosing to get off the phone. Remembering that your worth is not determined by their reaction. So if they get angry, if they get disappointed, if they get upset, that does not mean you're doing something wrong. In fact, sometimes that can mean you're effectively setting a boundary, and remembering that it's not your job to keep them comfortable or to keep them feeling not disappointed or hurt. And also that you are not causing this, that you're allowed to have boundaries. Boundaries are clear, boundaries are kindness. And you're teaching them how you want to be treated, and you deserve to have a relationship that is on your own terms as well. So to stay connected with yourself, like check in with yourself throughout the event, check in with how you're doing, just noticing like if you're needing a break. After the interaction, maybe like take some time to reflect, journal, do some kind of grounding, talk to someone about it, rest, do whatever you need. If you are struggling with this and you would like help, reach out. I offer free consults if you are in Colorado or Florida. And thanks for watching.